Girl 3, but she's not going to fall over dead. I'm like, if she does, I'll beat her. Anyway, I know that you missed my face. You can't have pictures today. Monday with evidence will be in these 2 rooms again. So, no, yes. Monday with evidence. And then we'll go over the practicum packet that day. Okay. I promise. Because I keep forgetting.
I'm glad you remember to say that because I was going to, but then I forgot with everything else going on.
You were supposed to ask her over lunch, Jackie.
I did,
Oh,
but with,
here.
but then I asked her and then my stuff happened, so I forgot. All right. Oh, USB drive. That's what I need. USB drive. Oh. Oh.
Yeah, my pencil bag was right here.
Why do I not have my safety? Go into resources. Not outline. I'm looking for PowerPoint. I just feel like there's a crushing chest, like an elephant sitting on my chest.
Yeah?
I love stress.
Expand your lungs.
Doesn't help. But thanks. Thanks for thinking of me. Yeah, make sure you sign in today, guys, or this afternoon, or you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
If there's no more room, do you want us to just sign the back?
Yeah.
That one's filled up.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, because I think there's only 20 spots, so. I lose camera there.
Yeah.
Oh, I may have done something wrong. All right, let me go see if I know she's talking to them. Let me go see. Hey, there you go up there.
No, because I got my junk everywhere. When I started the program already. You don't have to break. You don't use yellow.
All right, let's talk about safety. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about your outline, okay? Professional nursing, 115. If everybody's got it, yeah. Exemplars for safety. Recognition of and action on adverse events. National patient safety goals, invasive procedures, diagnostic workup, okay? Those are your exemplars. So describe the safety of concept in the healthcare setting. Who is safety for?
Patient yourself.
Patient and yourself and everybody else. Visitors, anybody, everybody, okay? Explain the scope of safety in healthcare. Examine the national patient safety goals. How are they used within the healthcare setting? Plan measures to ensure patient and healthcare professional safety. Examine causes of errors in a healthcare setting. Explore interrelated concepts that contribute to the prevention of healthcare errors. Reflect on attributes of a safe nursing professional. Discuss safety needs across the lifespan, okay? Those are your learning outcomes for this. Now, PowerPoint. This PowerPoint is on resources. Come on. All right, so safety defined is the prevention of healthcare errors and the elimination or mitigation of patient injury caused by healthcare errors. What are some errors or healthcare patient safety you think of in a hospital room? Medications,
Like the call light's too far and they fall.
call lights too far away, falls. What else?
Incorrect patient.
Incorrect patient? Absolutely. Oh, they can't see me. I forgot. What about, think about accessories in a room. Bedside tables, what if they're too far? Do you put walkers too far? They're reaching for things. They should never have to reach for things, okay? Think about your IV poles and your IV lines. As you get into a hospital setting, you're gonna see an IV pole with an IV line across the patient. So say your IV pole's on the left, your IV site's on the right. Is that a safety issue?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I worked ortho, okay, patients coming back from surgery, where do you put the SCD machine? On the end of the bed. Where do you plug it in? I'm gonna guarantee you every single one of them PACU nurses plug it in 4 feet away on the opposite wall.
Isn't it under the bed?
It's supposed to be under the bed and at the head of the bed, not on the opposite wall where people will walk and trip over that cord, okay? So when you're going into this room, you're looking for cords, IVs, wet spots, them little old people who get up and can't hold their bladder and don't have pants on. You know, it's huge. And we have what's called alarm fatigue, okay? You hear a bed alarm and you're like, oh, that's just old Joe. He's just wiggling in the bed. That'll be the one time he tried to get out and broke his hip, okay? Bed alarms, IVs, telemetry. Oh my goodness, call lights. You will get fatigued if you're not already. And it doesn't take that long, okay? But you still have to be aware. I cannot tell you how many times people hear telemetry alarms going off and they just hit the silent button. They don't go look at their patient. That's a big no.
I'm a monitor tech.
Good.
You're not allowed to touch them.
You're not allowed to touch them, yes.
You're not allowed to touch.
But you have to lay eyes on that patient to know everything's okay. Bless you. Healthcare errors are unintended healthcare outcomes caused by the defect in the delivery of a care of patient. Not checking on a telemetry alarm, not checking on an IV alarm, not checking on a call light, okay? All of those are healthcare errors. And not having a call light within reach. They have to reach for anything they need and it's not right next to the bed. That's a healthcare error. Go ahead.
Is it anything that you get tagged on, basically?
Absolutely, yeah, you can get tagged on any of it. If it's you can be written up for it.
Okay.
You have to do a PERTS or an incident report. Say it's an elderly patient, they have a walker. The one thing you have to make sure they have is a fall risk bundle. You need to have the socks, you need to have the fall risk outside the room, a yellow band on, yes.
So for a shift change, is that one of the first things you do is go in and assess because it's now on you?
Absolutely.
Like how they've left the room.
So the question is that what you do the first thing for your shift change? Well, right now, the big thing is bedside report. So you should be doing that when you get report. You don't have to fix it right then, but when you're getting a report and you're writing your report down, write down, you need to move the SCD machine plug. You need to move the IV pole. You need to, you need to do this. You may need to move an IV site. Maybe the IV pole's on the left side of the bed because they can get up and go to the bathroom by themselves, but their IV's still on the right. You need to move that IV to the left side where the IV pole is. So yeah, so just those are things that you need to make note of. You should be, when you get into clinicals, be doing like a 60-second assessment. I know you for sure will do it in third semester, but when you get into third semester, I will pick a room and I may or may not put some stuff in there. It may or may not have a patient in it. And I'm going to take you in there. I'm going to watch that clock for 60 seconds and I'm going to make you walk out. I'm going to make you write down anything and everything that's wrong. And we're going to do that a little bit today with pictures. And there are definitely things wrong in these pictures. But you need to be aware going into these rooms. Oh my gosh. One of my stories is safety. Had a patient, we had been calling the doctor all night. He wouldn't be come in because his doctor had gone on vacation. So it was a doctor who was covering. He had had abdominal surgery. He was leaking blood. Reinforce, reinforce, reinforce. I mean, we had so many ABD pads on this dude. Finally, we ended up coding him. It wasn't my patient, but I was charged. I'm in there. I've already started compressions. There's blood welling up the throat. And I'm like, get that suction to me now. No suction containers on the wall. I'm like, get that crash cart in here now. And so like I rolled to try and drain and then started compressions again. Bring the crash cart in. No suction container on the crash cart. Yeah. Whew, if I would have been at the point to yell at people at that point in time, I was beyond livid. So one of the things, and that's it's going to be a hard lesson when you learn it. Okay. So from that point on, every time I worked, every patient room that had a patient in it, I checked for suction. Okay. I did safety assessments. Even if I was charged, I went in and did safety assessments because I never wanted to be in that position again. So yeah, it was. And then it was really fun. This was up in the city. I had to report to the day charge, and the family of the man who coded and did not make it, I thought was going to beat me. Like came at me, got in my face, screaming and yelling. And I was just waiting. And the day charge stepped in and got them off of me. So not only were there multiple errors done, I mean, it was not a good patient outcome. He didn't survive. We had documentation of everything, you know, how many times we had called the doctor. And I almost got beaten up by family members. So don't go through that. Make sure you have what you need. Some of the nurses that I've worked with up in the city, there's one, she carries a fanny pack. And some of the other nurses laugh at her. And I'm like, I can guarantee you she always have everything she needs. I'm one about all the pockets. I mean, I probably have alcohol swabbies from 2003 when I became an LPN that are still in the pockets of some of my scrub pants because I always have alcohol. You always need scissors. Depending on what kind of department you work in, you may need clamps. Okay? Always have gauze. Always have gloves. That's a safety measure for you. Okay? So you really just need to be aware of your surroundings when you're working. What is safe and what is not. Healthcare errors can include errors of commission, omission, or execution. And we'll go over that here in just a minute. Oh yeah, down here. Attributes of safety. Actions taken to remain safe. What kind of actions are those? First of all, gloving. That's protecting you.
Following any sort of like droplet precautions.
Following any kind of precautions, absolutely. Any kind of isolation precautions. If they're in droplet precautions, put face coverings on, okay? Face shield, glasses, whatever, goggles, it doesn't matter. Wear it. Wear your masks. Like, I really think somehow I got out of here last night with wearing a mask, but I don't remember it because when I got parked in the parking lot this morning, I'm like, where's my mask? Because I literally keep it in my car. And I'm like, and I asked Melody, I said goodbye to her. Or no, she wasn't here last night. When I went to leave, I usually say goodbye to Melody if I leave before her, but I'm like, I asked her, I'm like, did I get out of here without a mask last night? And she's like, I got no clue. And I'm like, I really feel like I did. And then I found one that was my 6-year-old nephew's. And my ears were, but I wore a mask into the building. So, alterations to safety, events, actions that prolong healing, cause injury, or even death. And there are so many you're going to see. So, actions to remain safe. Hospitals do surveys and inspections. Okay? Not just hospitals, but they have like accrediting bodies that they have to answer to, like JCAHO. They have reporting systems, incident reports, close calls. Even if there's a close call now, they want you reporting that because they don't even want close calls. They want everything prevented. Okay. Investigations for causes. Why did this happen? How did this happen? How many people did it get past before it did happen? Okay. Was report not given correctly? Was it just ignored? Was it just now found? What caused that to happen? Visibility of safety rules. You see those posters everywhere. Do you stop and read them? Hospitals have a lot of posters. There's poster fatigue too. Correct use of PPE. Everyone, this is not correct use of your PPE. Okay? Your nose has to be covered. Analyzing workplace injury and illness data. Short staffing leads to what? Mistakes. Back injuries. You need a boost, but you can't get one. How are you going to do that? Tell a patient, yeah, I'll get to you when I can. Nurses are the MacGyvers of the world. I'm just going to tell you. In my time as a nurse, I have learned if you need to boost somebody and there is nobody around, you push that bed away from the wall, lock the gears, put them in Trendelenburg and pull. So you're putting the head of the bed down and you pull on their chuck. Just saying.
I was on the coach unit by myself. I had to do that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. You do what you got to do.
Sometimes I have to put the feet of the bed up just to give me a little extra boost.
Uh-huh. And if they're like a scooter, if like you've had to boost them a lot, then put a little bend in the bed at the knees. It'll keep them in place. Tricks of the trade. And then they're in a little hole. Yep. And then provide safety training. Is it safe for you to use something that you don't know how to use? No. Could you walk into a hospital room right now and set an IV pump correctly? I mean, you could probably set it. Probably not correctly. Adverse events, there's sentinel or never events. Prevention requires a culture of safety, okay? That's set by your faculty. It's followed by staff, patients, education, and engagement. Shared attitudes, values, practices resulting in behaviors and feelings of responsibility for safety. Basically is the culture of safety is you need to prevent any kind of injury. And that's from administration to environmental specialists or janitors, okay? Everybody's responsible. If you see a piece of trash on the floor, pick it up. Somebody could slip on it. If you see a wet spot, clean it up, okay? It doesn't take that long, or throw a wet spot sign on it. Okay, it doesn't take that long. But you're saving yourself or somebody else from a lot of grief from a potential fall. Culture of safety. The system's value in reporting errors without punishment. It used to be if you reported an error, well, you got written up for it. Okay? But now hospitals are realizing people aren't reporting errors. So they have instituted, well, let's not punish them for reporting it, even if they did something wrong. Let's make it a learning moment. There will be times when you make mistakes, you make med errors. You're human and no one is 100% perfect. You need to be honest. and upfront about it. Okay? That's the only way you'll learn. That's the only way to keep your patient safe. Now, pharmacy, they are human too. Cannot tell you how many times I've gone in to pull an ibuprofen and pulled out a hydrocodone. They are both oval and white. That's a med error. That's a near miss. That is a reportable event. It needs to be fixed. Okay? You didn't take it any farther, but when you're passing your meds, you need to be looking at labels when you're scanning them and looking at your computer. I've seen people just keep scanning and scanning and scanning. And I'm like, there's red flashy stuff on your screen. Because the first pill that you scanned 8 pills ago was wrong. Got to pay attention to everything. You got to cover yourself, okay? Yes, somebody else in pharmacy may have made the mistake, but you are the one that's going to catch it, that has to catch it before it gets to that patient and causes that patient harm. Transparency in healthcare. It didn't used to be. It needs to be the culture that we have now. Honesty, okay? You're human, you make errors. Everybody does. Anybody who's out there that tells you they don't is lying. You have to be transparent if you make an error. Information about safety should be made available to the public. It is, to some extent. Of course, there's HIPAA, so you can't violate HIPAA. But you see all the time in the news, not here, usually it's like in Florida or somewhere, where they amputated the wrong leg. It's like, how do you make that mistake? Well, you know what? Those mistakes are not that hard to make. I worked in surgery. Story time. I worked in surgery and I had a patient who was having, what was he having done? It was ear, nose, and throat. So I think it was probably thyroid. The doctor's name, the initials were RT. What do doctors initial on a patient? Their first initial and their last initial. If you looked down at a patient and said, saw RT somewhere, didn't know who the doctor was and what they did, what would you think? Not related to. Right. Okay. So you're thinking, we're going to do something on the right side of this body. That's how it happens. So it is that easy. Somebody's initials. What if he was an orthopedic surgeon and he was working on a leg or an arm and put RT on the left arm? That would be confusing, and it's happened. So I have worked with orthopedic doctors who literally go in and write no and then initial the right one and put yes. That's a little over, but it works. That was up at a surgery center in the city. And yeah, and the doctors whose initials are RT argued with us.
So is that why now they don't want you to use RT for right or LT for left? They just want you to use the capital R, capital L?
I couldn't tell you. I honestly, they're always trying to make things better. Not necessarily that it is better, but they're trying to make it better. Yeah, I got no clue on that one. Okay. Come on. How nurses can improve patient safety. Support a culture of safety, okay? It is essential for nurses to correct issues that can create harm. We're gonna watch this video real quick. Come on.
Patient care technician came to me and she told me, I need to let you see this screen. She showed me the glucometer.
She saw the word high flash on the screen, and that's what she assumed was the result that she had.
She's like, I just feel like my blood sugar is really high. So she's like, I don't feel good, I know my body.
And so there wasn't really any suspicion that it would be low. And so when this error message comes up, it kind of confirmed that.
So we rechecked her blood sugar and the same thing popped up. So I covered her with some insulin and I called the physician, and by the time I got her back in bed, she became like non-responsive.
Ended up being a rapid response and requiring a transfer of the patient to the intensive care unit.
Noyan.
Nurse had misread the founder and called the physician, asked for insulin on multiple occasions, and the patient had a severe hypoglycemic event and had to go to the ICU before it was caught.
During the rapid response, we checked the glucose twice, I believe, and the same thing kept popping up the screen that said glucose greater than 600. The next day is when I received the call that the whole time her blood sugar was actually critically low.
Shortly after this particular incident, another nurse made the same error where the machine gave, it was an actual low value, but the machine read off this alert saying for a high, do X, Y, and Z.
It never came to mind that the glucometer was incorrect. It was probably the worst experience I've ever had in my professional career.
The nurse manager called our human resources department, said, explain the error, this is what happened. We didn't fully understand the ramifications of this piece of equipment and the message that it displayed. And they said, well, I think you need to suspend her until an investigation is completed.
I felt like I was talked to like a 5-year-old. I wasn't talked to like an adult. I mean, I'm a nurse because I come to take care of people, I come to do my job, I'm very passionate about what I do. And for a long time, it really shook me. Like when I came to work, I was scared to like take care of patients, and I was really apprehensive about everything I was doing. I wasn't really confident anymore. It really shook me to the core.
I questioned it with my boss, and she had the suggestion to invite some of the staff from the Human Factors Engineering Department in MI2 to come over and help us at least evaluate the process.
I got a call from the chief nursing officer at one of our hospitals saying that they had a case. There was a design issue that might have contributed to the case, and they wanted us to take a closer look at it from a human factors engineering, safety engineering standpoint.
It quickly became apparent that there was more to the story than just that she had made a mistake, and that there was a lot more, that it wasn't just her, it was the actions and thoughts of people that led to this hazard, and it certainly could happen again.
You can't fault any one individual. That's a process problem that needed to be addressed. And the more we thought about it, the more we decided that we needed to fix the process.
The concept of high reliability, the concept of systems problems versus people problems, the concepts involved in human factors engineering. They become very familiar to us, those of us who are talking about them all the time. They are not as familiar to the people on the front lines. Our job is to be able to share that in an effective way, one in which they can actually use the tools and change outcomes.
The leadership, when they saw our analysis of the case, they supported the fact that Annie should not have been disciplined, and they reversed the discipline. And that was doing the right thing. And I think that sent a very important message to the staff at this hospital, that the leadership supports them and takes the systems approach to managing error.
There was a team there and they were all like nodding and they were all like validating. They were like, okay, so you know, you're not incompetent, everything you're saying makes complete sense. And it was just like, it's like I could take a breath and be like, okay, I'm not crazy. And then when I was told by my manager, she pulled me in her office after it, and she was like, we're gonna take away the discipline. She was like, they actually said that we didn't treat you so fairly. And that made me feel better, and that was like a positive aspect of the experience.
We need everybody in our system, actually everybody in the healthcare industry nationally, to understand the systems approach and understand just culture, so that when we have near misses and when we have small little noticed hazards and unsafe conditions that we encounter day to day in our job, that we report it and that we look for trends, and where we can, we fix the system so that the next time that same error or near miss happens, we won't injure a patient.
So When an incident to a patient occurs, you fill out a form. Depending on the severity of the injury to the patient, then that form can be elevated, okay? It will go to administration, it can go to the hospital's lawyers, and then they make a decision on what level, because there's different levels that it is. And if it's above a certain level, it will go to the Kansas State Board of Nursing for investigation. Okay, so at the start of your career, protect yourself. Okay, again, support a culture of safety. If you notice something, call attention to it. Like that glucometer should have been pulled out of rotation as soon as somebody noticed that error, so it didn't happen again. You want to communicate well. If you see something, say something, because it needs to be fixed. If you see the water spot on the floor, fix it. If you don't have time right at that moment, tell somebody and ask them to do it, okay? Perform basic care and follow checklists. There's a reason we have those. It's especially important if you're doing a procedure, okay? You have to follow the checklist. Very first thing, if you're doing a procedure, what do? Wash your hands. Okay. Engage your patients. Make them important parts of their own care. Because then they can question you if they're like, well, you said you were going to do it this way, but you're doing it this way. Is that the right way? It's okay to be questioned because you may be making a mistake. Learn from your incidences and near misses. Oh my gosh, I cannot stress the importance of that. Learn from it, embrace it. Don't let the guilt eat you alive, but learn from it, okay? Don't just say, I'll never do it again. Learn from it, okay? Get involved with the safety in your hospital. Get involved in a safety committee or something. If you see something wrong and you think you have an idea to make it better, say something, okay? You guys as nurses and CNAs drive the safety of the patients. And if there's a process out there that needs to be changed, you need to be the one driving the change, okay? Because you're the ones that are doing it every day. All right, efforts to improve patient safety, National Patient Safety Goals and QSIN, Quality and Safety Education for Nurses. Now, the National Patient Safety Goals are revised yearly and based on reports from the previous year. QSIN are the pillars of nursing education at NCCC, and it consists of knowledge, skills, and attitudes for 6 areas of competence. Types of errors, okay? First of all, diagnostic. What does that mean? Misdiagnoses. And I'm going to tell you, this is my personal opinion. I feel there are a lot of misdiagnosing going on and have been since March with COVID. I think we are so focused on COVID right now, we're missing some other things that might be going on. Not saying that for a fact, just saying that's how I feel. A lot of things are being attributed to COVID that may not have been COVID. Treatment, the wrong treatment. What can you think of somebody getting the wrong treatment? Huh?
A bleeding treatment by chance, like someone that's getting some sort of like albuterol and they're not supposed to have that.
Breathing treatment? Yep. They give Spiriva at nighttime instead of in the morning. Your medication's given late or too early or not given at all. Hanging the wrong IV fluids.
Wrong parameters for blood pressure.
Wrong parameters for blood pressure. Yep.
Or not paying attention, not checking blood pressures.
Not checking blood
or
pressures.
parameters.
If you have a diabetic patient and you haven't heard from your CNA what the blood sugar is by, say, 8 o'clock, is that an issue? Yeah. Your CNAs are busy. I know this. I respect you all, every single one of you. If you're a nurse and you have a diabetic patient, you need to know what that is. So you need to find your CNA and find out if it's not charted. Okay? Preventative. You have somebody with a walker that is not on fall precautions and they fall. That was a preventative error. They didn't have a bed alarm. That was a preventative error. Okay? Communication. Oh, I forgot to tell you they were diabetic. Oh, I forgot to tell you they're NPO for surgery tomorrow. All of those are errors. And then errors are commission, omission, or execution. Oh, I keep clicking like it's going to switch it for me. Types of injuries. Falls, injuries of restraints, healthcare associated infections, wrong site surgery, med errors related to development and related to activities. So let's talk about falls a little more. Is every single fall in a hospital preventable?
Yeah.
I say yes. Because you do everything you can. Bed alarms, bed in the lowest possible position, side rails up. Footies on, fall risk protocol. Okay, you have done everything you can to prevent that fall. You can't control the patient. And education, absolutely, yes. But you can't control what the patient will do. So yes, I say they are preventable, but they're still gonna happen. But you can do everything you can to prevent it. Okay, you see the difference in that? Yeah? Okay. Restraints. Back when I was a first little new nurse, I want y'all to know I went to nursing school at 33. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna be the oldest person in there. And I wasn't, it was amazing. But when I went, we had vest restraints. So like you put a vest on them and then crossed the two cords and then tied them down. Well, guess what? Somebody got caught up in it and choked themselves to death, so you couldn't use them anymore. Not at my hospital, it was somewhere in the nation it happened. So they pulled those. You can get hurt, the patient can get hurt in restraints. They're gonna get hurt no matter what if they really fight it hard enough. But you have to do your best to prevent everything. So when you have somebody in restraints, you have to be checking on them. Most of the time, it's every 15 minutes. Okay? Healthcare associated infections. What is the #1 healthcare associated infection? Huh? Nope. Nope. I heard something over here. Catheters, UTI, Kashi. Catheter associated UTI, Kashi. C. diff, honestly, there's more C. diff outside of the hospital now than there is actually in it. It used to be nosocomial, which meant it was in the hospital. That's where it originated. Now it's so much out there that you don't see it like it you used to. They don't even bring it to the hospital anymore. Wrong site surgeries. It still happens. You would think with all the technology we have, it wouldn't. Do you have a question?
Well, I work in surgery now, and we have one surgeon who will not start a surgery unless he reads the consent to the room and make sure that everybody's paying attention and someone reads the armband at the same time. And then we have other surgeons who you'll read a timeout, and then before they make a decision, they'll be like, "Did we do a timeout?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you agreed with it." So.
Yeah. In surgery, it's a whole nother world. There's a lot going on, but you literally, what do you do? And are you
I'm a scrub tech.
scrub tech? Okay. I was a circulator. And so literally I have screamed at doctors and everybody in the room, I'm gonna do a timeout now to get their attention, because scrub techs are busy getting ready to hand the doctors all the, doctors are off in their old little world or talking to anesthesia. Anesthesia is making sure the patient's breathing and that kind of stuff. And to get everybody's attention, especially if it's an emergency situation or like a C-section. When there's a C-section, you've got 2 doctors, you've got anesthesia. Hang on, let me count on one hand. You've got 2 nurses for the baby. So there's 5 people in the room. You've got the circulator. And then like if it's an emergency, there may be 1 or more 2 people in a room. And that's 7 to 8 people. And everybody's having their own little conversations. So you have to make, if you do a bedside procedures, that's not unheard of. A thoracic puncture. Thoracentesis, thank you. I'm losing my words, it's late in the afternoon. You have to make sure everybody in the room is quiet and they know what's going on. That's critical. Even if you do a central line at bedside, that's a procedure and you have a checkoff sheet and you need to do a timeout. Okay? That's patient safety.
What's a timeout? Is that kind of just like?
A timeout,
somebody going over-
you announce to the room, you say, sometimes if you want to get really formal about it, my name is Jackie, I'm the circulator, and I'm going to do a timeout. Our patient is so-and-so, date of birth is this. Consent is signed for an EGD. But you can't say EGD, you have to say esophagogastroduodenography.
Duodenoscopy.
Oscopy, not graph. Yeah, thank you. EGD. Try spelling that late at night when you get called in. Do you work in a center or?
No, I work in the main OR.
Where at?
Olathe.
Hey, I love them. I got to do rounds with Janet Skelett when I was in my master's. She's retired now. Yeah, I follow her on Facebook. We're still friends. But I followed her when I was getting my master's degree. So we got to go into that. That was the first time I'd ever been in Olathe to watch a knee.
Dr. Bell, yeah.
Nip.
Probably did a
Hip.
total knee or a total hip.
Yeah, so I can't remember now what it was because it's been a while. But yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
But our rooms are so small.
We just got new ones. They're bigger now.
Okay, well, I worked at Ransom when they had just gotten their new OR. Huge rooms, huge. And you need huge rooms. Like when you get a chance, just peek in the surgery part of the scrub techs in there, because the tables they use are huge, okay? And for total hips and knees, sometimes you need 4 of those tables, along with the 8 people
And the x-ray machine.
and the x-ray machine. And the person who is representing the parts you're putting in this person, because there's always a representative in there. Oh my gosh. And then the doctor's like, my music. So let's talk about music and surgery. You have to make sure your doctors and the scrub techs, no offense, follow all protocols. Doctors are very specific about what they want and the scrub techs know what they like, okay? I worked with a doctor who was working on a foot, and he came up by the knee. I'm gonna move this down so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. He came up by the knee, so the foot's right here. Woo, there we go. And so he is working facing this way, arms basically over the knees, working over the one knee, working on the foot. And he had his music cranked. Well, where do they put the music? By the circulator. Okay. And I'm like, I hear something I shouldn't be hearing. First thought is cautery. I looked and I do not see it lit up, because when you push the button on the cautery to make it work, it lights up the machine. I keep hearing this and I keep hearing this. Safety protocol indicates that when you are using cautery, you use a cautery holder. And you take your cautery pin and you put it in the holder when it is not in use. This doctor refused to do that. This doctor just threw it down wherever, where in this case, it was between the patient's legs. So where do you think that cautery and that elbow were? On the cautery pin, and that patient got a huge burn on their leg. Because I finally shut the music off and said, I hear. And then the scrub tech's like, I smell smoke. And we had to bring in a plastic surgeon who happened to be operating that same day to look at this patient. And then of course I get questioned, well, why didn't you hear it sooner? Well, the music was cranked up. Usually the speakers are right above circulators. You know, I heard it, but I kept looking, and that's the first place you go to, and it wasn't lit up. So that may have been a problem with the machine. So they took the machine out of rotation to make sure that it wasn't messed up on the inside to fix this issue. And then the doctor got written up. It wasn't my fault. Wasn't the scrub tech's fault. Now, we both got a talking to, but we were not in trouble. They understood there's only so much you can do to get a doctor to follow everything. And we had the holder right there for the cautery. He literally threw it right beside it. No, I was gonna say female surgeons do it too. So you just have to be aware. What should that scrub tech have done? Picked it up and put it in the cautery holder. However, she was on the opposite side of it and couldn't reach it.
And sometimes we are using both of our hands to hold.
And sometimes you're using both of your hands, and yeah, it's just, that's when you have to stand up to them. And it's hard. I remember the first time I stood up to a doctor. Oh my gosh. I was like, my voice was cracking and I'm almost in tears. And I'm like, hey, you can't do that. You know, and this is like when I was a baby nurse, right out of nursing school. And now I'm like, hey, stop that. That is not our protocols in this facility, you know? And there's going to be those times when you have to stand your ground and be that advocate. They may not like it right then, but they'll appreciate it down the road when they're not burning a patient, having to pay for that hospital bill. So
That was my question. So on an accident like that, is the hospital paying? Because I'm sure that would not be paying for my legs.
I don't know if the facility, but I imagine that doctor took care of everything. So, or maybe the facility just wrote it off.
I noticed a lot of you're getting surgery, they make the patient say who you are, what you're there for, date of birth, and all that stuff. Is that part of the timeout thing?
Yes.
Well, we just do that when we bring the patient in so that we all can confirm it.
The patient's usually asleep in surgery when it happens. Usually.
Yeah, what does the timeout? Like who?
It's always the circulator.
The circulator.
We have that one surgeon that likes to do it, but
Yeah,
he's not retrained, so-
The circulator is in charge of the room. Okay, so it's the circulator's job to make sure that the scrub tech has everything they need for their job. The circulator's job to make sure anesthesia has everything they need for their job. And it's the circulator's job to make sure the doctor has everything they need and to take care of the patient. But I'm going to tell you, when I go and interview a patient, I ask them their name. I ask them their date of birth. I look at their chart. I ask about allergies. And by the time I get to the OR, I can't remember who they are. I do remember what we're doing, but I can't remember what they are. So when I do the timeout, I have to look at the ID band, which is actually a good thing because they're wanting us to do that now for patient safety. Okay. But I'm also trying to, when they're wanting me to do that, I'm also trying to help get the patient intubated because they've already been given some medication, and I'm sitting there holding the intubation tube for anesthesia so that they can look and place it properly. And then I've got scrub techs over here saying, hey, I still need, bupivacaine or a count or something. So if you go into a circulator job, it's a lot of work. I loved it because my patients were asleep for the most part. It is so, they're awake at the beginning, and then you get them to surgery and they're asleep, and then you take them to PECU and you're gone by the time they wake up. Now I'm too old. I did 2 years here at Ransom surgery on call. Oh my gosh, I'm too old for that crap. I need my sleep. There was one night I got called in. So like we would leave around 3 or 4 in the afternoon with our cases. We're done with a day. I got called back in at 9 for an appy, I think it was. And usually you can count on about 3 hours between surgery, getting it ready, surgery, and then you had to stay for PACU because they didn't have more than one PACU nurse. And then I got home. Well, it takes me a long time to come down from, just the energy and everything and relaxed enough to go to sleep. So it's about 1 when I went to sleep. I got woke back up at 3 for an emergency C-section. I left there at 6 to go home, eat and shower and be to work by 7. And I was like, I am not safe for patient care. I'm sitting at the desk unless you need me. And I did. I sat at the desk all day. They finally sent me home about 1 in the afternoon because I'm like half asleep. And they're like, well, we might need you. We might need you. And I'm like, okay, I'll stay. I'm not doing nothing until you tell me I have to. I think I pulled some cases and got equipment ready for the next day, you know, but I'm like, I'm not taking care of patients. I wasn't safe. And then like 4 months after I started at a surgery place, my 2 circulators that I worked with quit. So it was me and my boss doing on-call every other night. She had kids. So there was one night we got called in. I got called in. I texted her. I said, hey, I'm getting called in for a C-section. We do the C-section. I ran upstairs because anesthesia forgot the paperwork. I see the general surgeon and he's like, nobody goes home. I'm like, I'll let him know. So I go back downstairs and I told my boss, I'm like, there's something going on upstairs. We cannot go home. Why don't I finish cleaning up in here and you go find out what's going on? Because she had come in by that time. So she was like, yeah, we're going to have this other surgery, this open gut surgery. And so I told the scrub tech, I'm like, why don't you go? Let me finish cleaning up here. You're going to be here a lot longer than me. So I finished cleaning the C-section room and getting it ready just in case for another one. And then I went to see how they were doing and helped what I could until my boss finally was like, you need to go home. So, cause it was like 2 in the morning by then. So yes.
So in a situation when like you've been on call and then like, you know, you went home, showered and came back and you're obviously tired and you know, you kind of put yourself in the timeout, like I'm not doing patients, like that's you saying that, but shouldn't also like your facility be like, this person is not safe to be with patients? So like, would they want to keep you in the hospital or would they send you home?
They should, but staffing issues right now. I mean, there's people working
I
6.
just wanted to ask.
There's people working 6 and 7 shifts in a row right now
Yeah.
because of staffing. And I can't do more than 3 in a row. I've got to have at least a day to sleep for 24 hours before I go back.
Yeah.
So technically,
So in a perfect world.
in a perfect world,
In a perfect safe world.
I would have had to come in the next day. You take the day off, you'll be fine, we'll be fine.
Okay.
We don't have perfect worlds right now with nursing,
Absolutely.
with staffing. I mean, it's just, we have been short-staffed since I started nursing. And seriously, it's been that way for a long time. There was one night when I worked up in the city, I came on, it was me and a travel nurse, 20 patients and 1 tech. 8 of those patients were fresh post-ops and 2 of them have not come to the floor yet. 1 tech to do vitals on 20 patients and post-op vitals on 8. And 2 of us to pass meds. We refused to take report because then we would have been liable. Well, day shift has said, it's been a crappy day, we're leaving. So I called the boss. It took 4 phone calls to get a hold of her. 911 texts, this is back in the day of pagers. She called, I talked to her, told her what was going on. She goes, day charge stays. I was like, okay, I'll let her know. I told day charge that because I was night charge. Well, I'm not doing it. Tried calling my boss back. She wouldn't answer. So I called the house supervisor. I'm like, you need to do something. I said, or me and this traveler are walking. She's like, well, you can't do that. You've taken report. I said, we have not taken report. And day shift kept saying, just take report. We'll stay and help.
No. And then they say that.
Negative ghostwriter. As soon as you take report, you are responsible and they can walk out. Okay? Cover yourself. Your patient, your safety, your license is at risk. Okay? Hang on. Let me get off my box. Okay. Med errors. Again, I've talked about you're human, pharmacy's human. These Pyxis and Omnicels and whatever kind of contraption your hospital has to blurb out meds to you, they're amazing. Someone's got to put those medications in there. Okay? And that's when the errors happen. Related to developmental mentality of your patients. Okay? You're going to have those patients who think they're okay. Well, you are on like 80 milligrams of morphine. You cannot drive a car because you're seeing peak elephants in the room. I don't care if you say you're okay. You're not. Okay? Injuries related to activities. Do proper lifting. Always try and have somebody help you with a boost. If you can't know how to do it with putting the head of the bed down and the feet up, let gravity help you.
Well, would we taught that, like how to do it on our own, even though you're not supposed to?
I know, you teach us how to do that
I mean,
outside of
we just
hours.
come up with 3 times in this conversation about like if you're by yourself, like what to do, so I feel like.
I can draw you a picture. I mean, I can't take you all into the,
Kind of just figure it out when you're in this situation.
you really do.
Put in that
I mean,
position, you know
You
your
can
body,
figure out
what
what you can
feels
do.
Okay.
safe and appropriate.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
Those of us who don't have like the med background, I'm just like, I don't know, I mean, I'm
You'll
sure
learn
I can figure it
your
out, but.
If there's nobody in Learning Lab today, I'll sneak you in there and we'll have an impromptu, this is how you do it. Okay?
Unofficial discussion.
Because
You
if,
are stronger than you think. My little bitty self, I can
Oh,
impress
yeah.
myself. You
Especially
can
when
do more
it
than
means
you think.
the patient off the floor.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
oh my gosh.
I would go with that.
Seriously, okay, so safety, let's talk about you CNAs. I love you all dearly, but you all need to know your job. Up in the city, I worked with a nurse tech, PCT, whatever she was, a CNA. Common sense was not her forte. She came to me one time. We had these times because it was ortho, so we had Stryker infusion drains. These are drains that you put on an incision site, usually a hip or knee, and it pulls the blood. And if it's within 3 or 4 hours of the insertion of the drain, you can reinfuse that blood into those patients. It's their blood. It works well for Jehovah's Witnesses who can't have blood because it's their blood and it's never exposed to air. It's an amazing thing, okay? She came to me and said, I was putting this patient on the commode and that drain fell out. And I said, is it bleeding? Because I don't know where it fell out, you know? And I'm kind of assuming it's like an IV that's become disconnected and it's like poof, poof, poof. And she looks at me with this, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it, dumb look on her face. I don't know. You were in the room. You were there when it fell out. How can you not know if it's bleeding? I go in there, there's blood all over the floor. Because it's literally the part that's like a catheter going bloop, bloop, bloop with blood. This tech is also the woman who got a patient who had an epidural in up to the bedside commode. What's an epidural do? Makes you numb where? The waist down.
They drug this person to the bathroom?
No, she fell as soon as she tried to stand up by the side of the bed. And she fell with her feet went that way and she's on her knees after a total hit. So I'm charge nurse. I'd been in another room, so I get called in and there's 2 nurses and the tech's sitting there looking at the patient. And she's peed herself, okay? She's peed herself. That's what she was getting to do. Okay. And they're all like, well, how do we get her up? I'm like, get out of my way. They had a gate belt on her. God love them. And I just reached underneath her arms and stood her up. And I said, help me get her in the bed. And they helped me. And I'm just, of course, I have pee all over me and have to go get different scrubs. But I'm like, you were worried about pee? Let's be worried about the doctor we now have to call and send this patient down to x-ray because she dislocated a freshly done hip. Common sense. It's not everybody has it. Please use it. Please use it. Oh my gosh. If it's bleeding, stop it. Okay? Yes, clamp it. That's why I say have your clamps because it's very beneficial. Okay, I gotta get off that tangent, sorry. Woo-hoo-hoo. Workplace safety, standard precautions, wear your gloves, wear your gloves, wear your gloves, wear your mask, wear your mask, wear your mask. Latex. It's not as bad as it used to be. Everything's pretty much latex free. Not everything, not every place, not everything. And you have to be careful if somebody has an allergy to avocados or bananas because they have a latex allergy or sensitivity. Okay?
Is it avocados and bananas?
Yes. So that makes them sensitive to latex for some reason. I've never researched it. They usually know. So that's a good thing. Safe patient handling. Don't try and lift a patient all by yourself. Don't get them out of bed if there's an epidural in, please and thank you. Okay. And workplace violence. I'm gonna tell you what, in my long-term care days, I got beat up by so many little old women. Women!
It's the little ones.
They're vicious.
It's always like the 5'2".
It is the little ones. It is the little ones. But you know what happens in the hospital too? I had a little old lady with a total knee who she was kind of swinging out at us, but not that bad. But she was like, I'm gonna call my son, he's a policeman and he's gonna arrest you, and then I'm gonna call my other son who's a lawyer and he's gonna sue you, and then I'm gonna call my granddaughter, her boyfriend's Mexican. I don't know what that meant, but she was gonna get us. She was out to get us. And she kept trying to get out of bed. So it took 4 of us to hold this little 5-foot lady down after a total knee so that I could give her some Ativan. And one of our techs was a guy. and so I stepped back from giving the medications and everybody else let go and stepped back. And she looked at me, looked at that arm and ripped that IV out. And I was like, oh. and the guy that let go of the arm that had the IV, I'm like, that's your fault. And he's like, oh, I'm like, it's okay. I'm just messing with you. But there's no way I would have gotten another IV in her. We just prayed to God it took effect. Because I don't know if you know about little old people, because sometimes when you give it Ativan, it has the opposite effect. It makes them more hyper and more violent. But workplace violence is a for real thing. I've taken care of psych patients. And there was one night, one woman beat the crap out of me. I bent down to talk to her. She was sitting in a chair and she backhanded me. And I was still on orientation at the time. And the girl who was orienting me died laughing. And she's like, she just mama slapped you. And I'm like, it hurts. It hurts a lot. So this patient was a psych patient. She had dementia. Her husband was in there. He was like 6'5". And she was probably 5'6", a little bit taller than me, not by much. And she kept coming to the door. And you know how those psych patients are. When they want to leave, they want to leave. Her mother was in there. She's like 4 foot. And then her daughter was maybe 5 foot. And they're like, oh, we get beat on all the time. We like get beat on all the time. And it's just like, why is she still at home? First of all. So in a hospital room, you know how they are. You walk in, there's the bed, and then there's the wall and a chair. And that's where her husband was. This patient's mother, great elderly one, has remarried. Gets a phone call from her husband. His son was found dead in his apartment. So the granddaughter is going to drive the grandma back to Wichita. So that leaves the patient and her husband. Patient comes to the door. And I'm like, honey, you can't come out. And I go to the door. I gently turn her, put my hand on the small of her back while I was this way, because the closet is here and then the sink comes into play in a minute. And I'm escorting her to her bed and talking to her. And she turns around and lets me have it with both fists. I mean, I'm trying to get away. I can't turn that way because that's the way she is. I try to turn this way and the closet's there. So I'm trying to protect my head and neck and get away from her as she's pounding on my head and my back. Finally, I get out and I screamed, I need help in here. And I'm like, I'm red. I'm crying because I'm upset and shocked because I've been attacked. And 4 people come running and they get the Haldol and just right through the jeans into her leg and she's out. We worked on transfer and probably about midnight, she got transferred out to a Jerry Psych in handcuffs. Sheriff department took her because she had attacked me. Guess what? I had to do an error report. And my boss asked me, well, why did you put yourself in that position that you couldn't get away? So that video we saw, that stuff happens. They ask you that stuff. Why did you do that? document everything, okay? It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It does. Working in surgery, men, young men, like 16 to probably 30-ish, they wake up angry. They wake up swinging. Okay, so I was taught when I first went to surgery, before anesthesia wakes them up, you tuck their arms with a bath blanket. And then that way they're fighting the blanket to get out. And by the time they get out of the blanket, they're awake enough, they realize where they are. There will be tricks to the trade you learn. When you are working with somebody or you're orienting with somebody, listen to them. Listen to their stories. Listen to my stories. You're gonna learn from them. Don't do what I did, okay? So how is assessment related to safety? When you're assessing your patient, what part of your assessment is related to safety? Examining the room, but how about patient safety? Patient assessment, that's what I'm trying to say. Behaviors, alert and oriented, yep. What else? Do they have a weakness deficit on one side because of like a stroke? That's where your assessment of your patient comes into play. Clinical reasoning related to safety. Why do we worry about safety so much? It's because of your patient and yourself, okay? How does the nursing process play into this? How do dosage calc play into this? How do skills play into this? Everything you're learning now is to prevent errors. That's why we do skills repeatedly. That's why we do dosage calc repeatedly. You will do math tests every semester to stay on top of it. Do you have to calculate anything now? Not in the bigger hospitals because they have pharmacy 24/7. But do you need to know how to double check a pharmacist's calculations? Yes, because you're the last step before it gets in the patient. Okay, I'm gonna stop share for a minute. Whew, I kept talking. I'm sorry, guys. Let's take a 10-minute break. Okay, everybody, let's get started. So we talked about the safety 60-second assessments for safety. I'm gonna bring up pictures, so you're gonna need a piece of paper
Like to turn in?
to turn in, yes. Sorry, I didn't bring more paper in. I'm a slacker. Or you can use the gray piece if it's still left over.
I wrote something else on that. I wrote right to do's.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
So I am going to be showing you some pictures. And I'm going to give you 60 seconds and then I'm going to take the picture away. Yeah, I'm waiting for you.
You want us to just label these as like,
Just picture number 1. We'll probably do 2 or 3. If you need to be closer to the screen, then go ahead and move up. That's fine. I'm going to try and make them as big as possible.
my glasses to glass. And then I sat in the back. That's
So just as much as we can see, as much as we can write down?
As much as you can write down or see and then write down in 60 seconds. Okay? Are you guys ready in 201? Thumbs up? How about the other side of the room? I can't see them. Are they good? Okay. All right. So this will be your first picture. Get as many things as you can see. And I'm going to close. Now y'all going to have to wait a minute because I'm going to. Well, it takes a minute for me to share.
Yeah, we totally won't look at it. while you're-
Whatever.
Oh my gosh.
That is a mess.
I can't even.
I guess we'll
focus.
Okay. Ready? Set. You've got like 9 seconds. Hang on.
Oh, she's actually watching.
I'm seriously going to give you 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Things that are wrong. Safety concerns.
Things that are wrong. Go. That's okay. $25 seconds left.
all.
10 seconds. Okay. How many things did you get? 7, 10, 8? Okay. We're going to do another picture. So draw a line underneath that information. We're going to do 3 or 4 of these and then we will go over them. Okay? It's the lighting actually.
Whoa, this is killing me.
Go.
Oh. Yeah, thank you.
$30 seconds left. Ten seconds. Okay. Draw a line under that one.
Okay. What's happening to the patient?
Twenty seconds. Okay. Draw a line under that one. Go. Twenty seconds. Okay. I think I have one more.
Please don't do that to us again.
Do this?
Yeah.
Why not?
As an aide, it's my duty to keep that really clean.
Little OCD.
Yeah.
All right, ready? Go. I forgot to pay attention to the time on this one, sorry. 10 more seconds, and then we'll go on to the next one. Okay, ready? Here's your next one. Oh, nope, that's it.
Okay.
That was painful? Okay. Let's talk about them.
Sorry. Sorry. Residence room and it's a disaster. We should go up there and like point at everything.
So let's talk about the first one. Okay, so just give me the glaringly wrong ones that you see just off the top of your heads. Sharps container, meds. The what? Glove box is empty. Good call. Catheter, the gown.
Like 3 things wrong with the catheter.
3 things wrong with the catheter.
Bedside table's in the way.
Bedside table's in the way,
And it's not close to the patient's reach.
right?
I know the
Call lights, yep. What else?
bed's not right. Lid on it.
The beverage without the lid.
Is that like needles laying by the sharps container on the table?
Needles laying by the sharps container, yep.
And the med bottles in there?
The med bottles, yep.
I think a psychiatric or like alcoholics, that alcohol shouldn't be out there.
Correct. Alcohol, the Purell should not be out there.
The bed's probably not in lowest position.
Bed's not in the lowest position.
The commode is a trip hazard.
Commode is a trip hazard. It's just too cluttered. Honestly, it is. And look at these IV lines.
They're all mangled. You couldn't even tell.
No.
I couldn't see that.
And did you see this piece of this tape roll that's right here? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Let's see, what else was there? This is probably like Ensure something that shouldn't be there.
Where?
Right here?
Yeah, I think it's like soda.
Should he be covered?
He should be covered. Yes, for warmth.
Gown straight.
Gown should be on properly. Yes. And to me, these aren't enough rails for this person because they're so long. So the rails need to be up too. Let's see. And the IVs, having IVs on two different sides. That's a big no-no. If you look right here, the reason I say this is Ensure is because right here is a feeding pump. I'll forgive you guys if you don't know what that is today, but going forward, no, I'm just messing. This is a feeding pump. So this is something like tube feeding that they have. Okay. So, and honestly, head of the bed should be up a little bit. It almost looks like he has suction or an NG tube. I can't really tell because of the picture. But yeah, good job, guys. All right, let's talk about the next one.
The soiled trash.
Do what?
No, like soiled trash.
A soiled trash bag?
Someone's on their phone.
Someone's on their phone?
Someone has their mask down, blowing into a Kleenex right next to the patient.
Somebody's blowing their nose with their mask down?
There's also smoke coming out of the patient. I've never been in an operator like that. Somebody does the surgical, but it's okay, but if the drape is on fire, that's not.
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
Someone's just fanning.
The smoke is an issue.
Is their leg off the bed?
The leg is off the bed down here. Oh, I point down.
The needles in the IV
Like
line.
debris.
There's a needle in the IV line.
Is a bucket of needles?
Bucket of needles.
The next case is in the room next to a bloody bag of something.
Next case, yep.
No privacy.
No privacy.
Scissors or something on the floor.
And you said whatever's wrong with the vent up in the corner.
Scissor on the room, the vent.
The cabinet's open too, the medicine cabinet.
Cabinets open over here.
The doors open.
Doors open. All right, now let me tell you as a nurse, a longtime nurse, what I see. Music's too loud. There's alcohol right here that's dripping. Okay. Look at this lady's fingers. Look at her fingernails. They're like an inch or two long. Okay. The purple part of them. Yeah, that's a big no-no. There's a wet spot right here. And I don't know what this is hanging into it. This surgeon doesn't have his gown on properly. Okay. Blood products only go in red bags. This is a trash bag, not a red bag. Okay. Again, you shouldn't have the case. Right here, scrub techs. Scrub techs never turn their back to their table. That's a big no-no. Your back is not sterile. So this table should be around here, or they should be angled so that they can reach it and reach the patient at the same time. Let's see, armband is almost off. Okay, up here, this is equipment. These are blue wraps, and this is maybe a set for a case down the road, but there's a hole in it, so it's no longer sterile. This is a washroom where somebody's washing instruments. They're not sterile yet, so this is not a sterile area. Okay. I feel like you guys did really good. Oh, wait, there's one more thing. Earrings on the scrub tech. No, 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 no. A big no-no, because those could fall into your patient. All right, next one. Tell me what you see. Okay, first of all, I need to do a disclaimer. I don't know what this is. I just found the picture. But it looks like there's a leg missing.
Yeah.
And they're face down, and they're covering their behind for some reason.
He should probably have gloves on.
Yeah, he didn't have gloves on.
If they're in surgery, they should be in scrubs. I mean, they're all in their normal clothes.
And she has capris on.
And she has capris on. And I feel like this guy down here is a mechanic for the bed. I feel like he's getting ready to work on the bed or something. I don't know. But this is a very good, it is very good. Because I mean, you've got tubing hanging from the light. The wires, I feel like this may be a rectal exam.
I don't know what a thermometer is, but who's examining it?
Yeah, this could be the doctor for all we know in tie-dye. I don't know. But
Now that you say it, it kind of looks, because the thermometer thing is like drawn out, it kind of looks like he's grabbing a thermometer.
and maybe he is, but there's a leg missing.
Well, and should that wheelchair be there? I feel like that someone's gonna turn.
The wheelchair? Right here. I just,
And can you wear your hair in braids like that? It's gonna potentially get in, as Chrissy says, the patient's business.
braids are better than just being loose, but they need to be, it needs to be up off your neck. So, but this is not, okay, rectal surgery is not necessarily a sterile technique because of the area, but I mean, you need to have sterile stuff. So your room needs to be sterile, your doctors and nurses and everybody else needs to be sterile. You need to prep the patient sterilely.
Maybe it's an abscess.
That's one heck of an abscess, if it's the leg. I mean, and look at all the trash on the floor. I cannot get past the leg. I cannot. I'm just like,
All have things in their hands too while they're doing other things.
yeah, they all have stuff in their hands.
You know.
Not a single one of them has gloves on.
I'm just confused because you only see the legs of the patient, like where's the rest?
Here's a hand. Here's a hand. Here's his body here. I have so many questions. And this was just a stock photo, so I'm like, I don't know what the girls are doing. One of them's in jeans, one of them, it's looked like they got called in for surgery. But what kind of surgery? I'm sorry, if you're doing a rectal temperature on somebody, before you address the fact there's a leg missing, let's talk about nursing priorities, okay?
I'm really hoping this is a dummy and this wasn't like a real situation.
I mean, it's missing a leg, so.
Blood is not squirting in this picture, so I'm assuming it's a mannequin. I'm not gonna say dummy because there might be, you know, yeah, politically correct. I'm gonna say this is a stock photo of what you do not do ever. I mean, I've been in procedures that are not sterile, they're clean, in quotes, and usually that has to do with genitalia and that kind of stuff. But yeah, this, I picked this one and I seriously was laughing. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know about the leg. It just throws me off. Now, granted, this is from the person who has a stump in their office with an ACE wrap on it because I was teaching students how to wrap a stump. And I thought it looked really cool. So it's on my bookshelf. So anyway. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what's wrong with this picture?
Catheter times like 3.
Catheter times 3.
There's a blood pressure cuff that's still attached to him. There's a blanket too.
Yep.
Another patient has a blood pressure cuff on too. And there's no privacy.
No privacy. Blood pressure cuffs just hanging.
No rails.
No rails.
Yeah, no side rails.
Yep.
No call light. Bed height.
No call lights,
What if
bed
they're
height.
Code blue and you have to perform CPR, how are you gonna get them off that bed?
Okay, first of all, I want to bring into fact, this is not a bed.
Yeah.
This is a cart. It looks like it. I'm going to tell you, autopsy cart and hospital cart, kind of the same thing.
She's like, this is an autopsy card. I thought it kidnapping.
Now, I want to point out, as a nurse who's been a nurse for a while, these are children. These are children.
I thought she was-
Look at the hospital gowns.
I thought she was, yeah, I thought she was.
Okay? They're children. This is a child's hospital bed because it's like, it goes up high. Okay? So yeah. So the catheter needs emptied. There's gloves right here, dirty gloves.
Those are socks.
They might be socks, but her toes are right here, so I don't know.
Maybe they're getting ready for a bed bath.
Maybe they're getting ready for a bed bath?
With
Sure.
while checking your blood pressure.
While checking her blood pressure, yes. So, yeah, there's some issues here. All right, let's talk about this one.
The catheter's not secured.
Draw sheet, catheter's not secured. What else isn't secured?
And his arm.
His IV's not secured. Right here.
Oh, is that what that is? I thought it was off of a machine or something.
This is your J tube, and it should have a loop in it and be attached on both sides. Now, the reason I picked this one is because the positioning of the catheter. If you put a catheter like this, it will not drain. It cannot drain uphill.
Yeah, and he moves, he's gonna rip that all the way out.
He moves and it's gonna rip it out. You need to put this, if it's not attached lower, you need to run this under their leg. Okay? So that it can drain properly, because if it can't drain, you're gonna burst that bladder, and that's a whole another hot mess. Oh, that's it, okay. So how do you feel you did on that? Okay, did you see everything? Most everything? No? What about you in 201? How'd you guys do? Did you see everything? Yeah, kind of, sort of. All right. So for homework, for safety, first of all, I'll be going in and reopening Prep U. If you have not done any questions, do some questions. Don't try to get to Mastery 3 level, okay? Just do 5 to 10 questions just to get used to doing the questions. They don't have to be right, but
Is that for everything or just this one time?
just this one time.
Oh, okay.
And that's the assignment that was supposed to be like pre-class?
That's pre-class for diversity and safety. And then you have post-class assignments. For diversity, it's Ronald and the questions with a case study. And then for safety, you have another case study and her name's Margie, and then there's some questions. Okay? So all of those are due next Wednesday at 11:55 p.m. uploaded into my Neo show. And I will, for those of you who didn't get to do any because the Prep U closed, I will reopen those so that you can do them. And just 5 to 10, okay? Do your best. You don't have to get 100% on it. Just get in there and get used to taking those types of questions, because that's what's the hardest, it seems, for first semester students, is getting used to NCLEX style questions. Because we are not flat out asking you, what is this? We ask you, I mean, and it's funny because there's even commercials about it now, or you see memes on Facebook. How do you spell potassium? Potassium. Well, that's right, but it's not really correct because you took the first S and put it as a second S. Get it? Or which orange is the orangest? So those kind of questions you're going to be seeing. So you really have, that's why we really promote critical thinking. And you need to get beyond what you, just the black and white. When I teach patho, I was doing study sessions to help them focus. We did study guides. What is the etiology of, you know, like, I don't know, some disease process? So they would be studying and they would give me all these answers of all this other stuff and the treatment and the diagnosis. And I'm like, no. When I'm asking you what the etiology is, that's all I want to know.
Don't call me out like that, Jackie.
Sorry. So when you're studying, if you do get a study guide, if I ask you what fruit is red, tell me apple. Don't tell me, well, there's different colors of red. Which red do you want me to use? Because this is kind of a red and this is more of a purple red, but this is, you know, I want to know what fruit is red. Okay? Because you guys right now are getting bombarded with so much information. You're getting information overload. And you're going to try and learn everything. Okay? So take a step back, take breaks, do self-care. I don't know about you, but when I'm done, I'm done. And I can't do anymore and I'm not going to learn anymore. And that's when I need to take a step back. When I was here last week, there was one day I left at 3 and I'm like, I can't do anymore. I'm not productive. And when you're studying, when you're tired or you're stressed or you're busy or you have something going on, you're not productively studying. Okay. So make sure you take time for yourselves in the next 2 years, because that's going to be hugely important. Make sure you ask questions before it gets too late. Okay. I would like to say there is not a dumb question, but I'm going to tell you one time when I was really, really stressed, I asked a friend of mine for a left-handed hammer. For real. That's where my mind goes when I'm stressed. Like, I can't process things. I should have quit at the time. And that friend reached over and turned the hammer that I had in my hand around so I could pull the nail. I'm not proud of myself, but it happened, okay? So don't get there. Let us help. We don't know if anything's going on until you tell us. So if you're having familial issues, work issues that are stressing you out, stop putting your stuff away. I have not dismissed you. I see all of you. Come to us when it happens. Say, even if you think something may happen, say, hey, my grandpa in Arizona, he's sick. I don't know what's going to happen. Give us a heads up. Okay? Help us get you prepared if something does happen. COVID. Oh my gosh. Seriously, COVID. I want to tell you, I did 2 orientations on Tuesday for 3rd semester and 4th semester. You do not have an excused absence for nursing school at all, except for COVID. And that's only if you fill out the COVID form and CERT gives it to you. So if you have symptoms and miss school or clinical, fill out that form. It's on neosho.edu. If you get exposed, fill out that form. Okay? If any reason, any COVID, anything, fill out that form. We as clinical instructors are not allowed to tell you, yes, you're sick, stay home. You have to wait for the CERT team. However, I made that call and I got in trouble a couple of times, like 3, because students would text me at like 8 and 9 o'clock at night saying, I'm running a fever, should I come into clinical? And I'm like, no. Well, CERT came back on me because of that. And I'm like, I don't, okay, I understand what you're saying because they're the ones who want to make that decision. But I can't have somebody with a fever anyway or vomiting in a clinical setting. So that's kind of where the critical thinking is. It may not be COVID, but you need to act like it is. Okay, so if you have any of those symptoms, don't come to clinical. You let your clinical instructor know, I'm having symptoms of this. I have filled out the form. Okay, and then right there, that for us tells you you're excused. And then we will get the CERT authentication or whatever they want to call it that gives us the time frame you're excused for. So I cannot stress that enough, because we don't know day to day what's going to happen. I mean, when it first hit, we instantly went remote, no more clinicals. We had to figure that out. Last semester, play it by ear. I mean, and when you're out with COVID, you're out sometimes up to 14 days. Okay. So you don't want to be missing out on stuff for 14 days and not be excused for that, because that is grounds for dismissal if you miss so many hours. So just make sure, number 1, you're protecting yourself. Wear your mask, wash your hands. Do the best you can. Again, I don't know how many of you had it. I don't care. I haven't had it yet, knock on wood, but we're all going to get it. So just take care of yourself. Fill that form out. Seriously. If you're not feeling good, don't come to campus, because you know there's the symptoms you have to be watching for. Don't come to campus. Don't go to clinical. Okay? And that way you're excused. You can't take advantage of it because now we had some issues, but we've got that figured out. So the CERT team's doing everything, and I think they've got like 24-hour coverage. If you don't hear from the CERT team before clinical starts or before class starts, still use your critical thinking. I've got the symptoms that are supposed to be COVID symptoms, and don't come to class. Email the people that know. Email your instructor, email the course coordinator, okay? Because we all need to know that. We keep track of attendance for a reason. What else? I had something else. What was it? Maybe not. Does anybody have any questions about diversity or safety?
Did you want these papers?
That we did on the pictures.
No, the papers that you did on the pictures, those are just for you? Yes.
I'm sorry, Debbie, did you say that your cell number was out, like, on the calendar, it's just, I think it's your office number? Did you, or, I'm sorry, you really interrupted the folder.
No, it's supposed to be out there. If it's not, it's on my business card. It's somewhere.
Okay,
If it's not, I'll go look.
okay, it's just, I think this is office, because it's similar to everyone else's phone number.
Is it 248?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my office number then.
okay, I'm just putting it in my phone. but-
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good call. When you email me or text me, when you text me, tell me your name and what class you're in or what semester. Okay? Because this is not my only semester. I have 3 different semesters in play. And I'm one of those, I will not answer my phone or my text if I don't know who it is. I'm old that way. So if you text me, say, this is Samantha and I'm in first semester. If you email me about a question about something I've taught, tell me what class it is. Put, hey, this is Samantha in PCC1. You taught diversity and I had a question about blah, blah, blah. Okay? That helps me. And that's just going to keep me from sending you an email saying, what class are we talking about? I have 9 concepts I teach. I have a clinical group and I'm in charge of 2 different practicums and the learning labs and the sims that go with it. And that's just my job. That's not home. So make sure you're giving me all the information I can, especially with now my clinical issue. I'll be super, super busy. So give me all the information that you can give me to help me not have to go in and look you up, please and thank you. If my cell number's not out there, I'll go put it out there. Yeah. Let's see what else. I can't think of anything else. How do you guys feel today has gone?
Better than yesterday.
Better than yesterday. Yeah. How about you in 201? Speak up, guy. Oh, you're muted. Somebody come unmute and tell me how you think today went. One moment. We pause while somebody walks up to the screen.
I think it went pretty well. Better
Okay.
than yesterday also.
Yay! I won't tell Christy, I promise. Was she the only one teaching yesterday? Well, yesterday was your first day of class though, so wait, yeah. When was your first day? Oh, Tuesday was your first day of class. What is today? Anybody?
Thursday.
Okay. I'm a little lost on what day it is because I was in a class, well, I was in 2 different classrooms all day Tuesday with orientation, and then Wednesday I was trying to get caught up on everything, and then today in the classroom all day. I kind of like that though. I get you all day long sometimes. Okay, so anything that I can change for you guys, I'm very open to, to suggestions.
So like today you told us like the assignments that were like, this is what to do. Well, is that something that you normally do? Cause I feel like for me, one of my like confusion or frustration is just like not always knowing exactly what to do. Cause like there's stuff in my Neosho and then there's stuff in Prep U and they don't always coincide. So
They should coincide though. If they're in my Neosho and they're in Prep U, they should coincide. However, today's stuff was my fault. But I'm always going to tell you if there's assignment due on your own. Because sometimes I'm the person, I'll be like, I don't think they'll understand this. So we're going to start the assignment in class. Okay, that's kind of how I roll. I'm going to give you as much class activity so you're not sitting here for 2 hours listening to me drone on and basically read a PowerPoint. I'm going to read the PowerPoint, but I'm going to throw a bunch of other stuff in there too. Sometimes I won't use the PowerPoint at all. But like we did Ronald's stuff, you know, we talked about that kind of stuff, the care plan. And then that's part of learning how to do his case study then that will be due next week. Myself, I always try and tell you, yes, there is homework due post class. I'm not real good about always getting pre-class stuff in there. And if I have something in there and it's not open, then that instantly becomes in-class work. Because I'm like I said earlier, I'm not gonna ding you guys for something I do wrong. You know, I get overwhelmed sometimes and forget once in a great while, like every week or so. So I would never give you guys a failing grade because of that. You know, that's just not fair. I tried to my best to be as fair as possible. And we talked about honesty, you know, with safety. You have to be honest in this job. So I'm going to tell you, I screwed up and I'm going to laugh it off. And I hope you guys laugh it off and go in and do 5 or 10 questions. Because again, I haven't been in Prep U to do the questions, so I didn't know they were that hard. I don't think any of us did. And we're actually going to have a meeting about Prep U and the mastery level.
I
And
don't like it.
you can't say that, you haven't been in there long enough.
I don't think the books are user friendly.
Yeah.
The books?
Yeah, and maybe I should get used to it, but I don't.
I did 100 questions last year.
Oh my goodness.
I
Yeah.
did 195 altogether to get a mastery 3. 195 questions. I just started repeating the same question eventually.
Yeah, it's nice. Eventually you get the same questions and then you get all of them right and then it boosts you a little faster.
I got a 2.8 for the longest time.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Glued.
I agree with what you said. I think the prep will be good for us in the long run with other classes. But the safety, some of it was like safety with farms, safety with other classes.
Okay. So the safety wasn't the best.
Yeah, there were questions that came up, and I don't even know what that means, but I don't think I read it.
Okay.
Another good question now, but like I agree with when we take the test, do you want us to screenshot it and then put it in, like if we get to level 3 or whatever level you want to say, we screenshot it and then put it on?
You don't have to screenshot anything. You don't have to upload anything. Like for the pre-class questions, I will go into Prep U and see what you've done. Okay, so you don't have to do anything. When we have Prep U questions, you don't have to do anything except go to Prep U and take however many questions we tell you to take, 5 or 10. Okay, yes.
I got in today, like this morning, because I did my master levels and I got to 3, and then it like my grade showed up or whatever in the big pot. Well, then when I went back in this morning, it said that it was to 2.9, but I saw like my grade was still there.
Don't worry about that.
Okay.
The grade in Prep U is different than the grade we will give you. Okay? Because we have to assign a grade, like how many points this is worth. Well, it just automatically goes to 100 points. When I go into an assignment, it's automatically pops it to 100 points. But when I go into my Neosho to give you a grade, that may be a 20-point assignment. Okay? If you did the assignments, if you did 5 to 10 questions, whatever's assigned, or a mastery level, which will not be 3 going forward, okay? You get the full points. Basically, this is a you do it, you get the points for your pre-class assignments for questions in Prep U, okay? So, and that's something else. I don't want you guys sweating stuff, stressing about that kind of stuff. So, well, if you have questions, email me or text me. Say, I've done 100 questions and I'm still at a mastery level 1. What's going on? And then I'll go in and look. Well, okay, chances are if you text me that at nighttime, I'm going to say, don't sweat it. Well, I'll look at it in the morning. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to look at it because I don't have my computer at home. So email me, text me, say, this is what's going on. And I still haven't gotten to mastery level. I'm going to tell you, stop stressing. I'll look at it tomorrow. Okay? Because nursing school is stressful enough without that kind of stress. So as long as you contact me, I'm going to be like, nope, forget it. Let me look at it tomorrow. And then I'll send out email to everybody. Okay. I'm not one who'd be like, well, you have to do it no matter what. And then tomorrow I'll look at it. No, I don't want you up until 2 o'clock in the morning doing 500 questions to get a 2.9 and still not hit that 3. Okay. Always contact me. Always contact whoever's lecturing about the assignments, who's in charge of the assignments. That's important. I cannot do anything about anybody else's concepts except my own. Okay. So, and I feel like most instructors are going to be this way. They all should be this way. If there's an issue with the assignment, and again, Lippincot's new to us this semester also. So there's going to be a few bugs that we all have to figure out. It's supposed to be all done and nice and neat, but obviously we didn't learn about the mastery level and how many hard questions there are. So just bear with us while we're doing that too. And like I said, email us and just say, I can't, you know, I'm on 190 questions and still at a mastery level of 1.4. And just, you know, it's okay. Just stop, take a breath, go to bed, relax, and we'll figure it out. Okay. What else? Anything else? All right. You guys have a great day. Thank you for being an amazing audience today. Right.
I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, no dosage pumps. So I looked up a YouTube video on how to do it, and I actually got that one right though. I was proud of myself. So, but what? It just popped up. She must have just opened it because, like, when I refreshed the show, it showed up. Because I was gonna ask her about it, but I was like, yeah, I'll refresh the page just in case she added it. She did add it. That's a lot though. Math, for me, if I understand it, I love it. If I don't. You'll be really good at nursing now, though. That's not necessarily true. I mean, you'll be better than the rest of us who aren't learning it. That's not necessarily. I could be horrible. Never know. I would be scared of that.
There's